Hello everyone, my name is Monique, student of the Ethical Future Summer A Unit of 2019 at Western Sydney University. During this presentation, I will be discussing the contemporary issues associated with current policy requirements of language other than English education in New South Wales government schools. The policies in place in regard to this topic are remarkably vague. The current curriculum policy for years K-12 states that curriculum planning and teaching programs will meet the policy standards. Looking at the 2018 policy standards for curriculum planning and programming, assessing and reporting to parents for years K-12, it identifies for primary school education, which is years K-6, that there are 6 key learning areas, in which, as you can see, there is no requirement specifically listed for language study in primary schools. Furthermore, analysing the educational policy for high school students, years 7 to 10, language study does come into play, yet only 100 hours is required of engaging with another language, which is for only one continuous year, which vaguely states to be completed within years 7 to 10. The difference is clear when viewing the current priority subjects in which English, Math and Science are designated with a minimum of 500 hours of class per year. In senior school, year 11 and 12, language study is not a requirement of the curriculum standards. It is an elective, yet these classes do not often run due to lack of enrolment. What is the issue with this vague language education policy for students? Australia has such a unique cultural diversity due to its pre-colonial, colonial and post-colonial history. The numbers speak for themselves, as according to the Australian Bureau of Statistics in 2016, nearly half of all Australians were born overseas or had at least one parent born overseas. Also, there were more Australians of either Chinese or Indian birth, which when combined was of a higher rate than of Australians who were born in England. Yet when you compare this current data to that of the first Australian census in 1911, England and Ireland were the dominating countries of birth for Australians. The data also shows that at least 21% of Australians speak a language other than English at home, in which Mandarin, Cantonese and Vietnamese are of the highest in popularity. Therefore, Australia is showing to be one of the largest growing multicultural nations on the planet, rich in diversity and linguistic freedom, which therefore leads me to the question as to why is 78% of the total Australian population monolingual? I believe it is to do with the lack of mainstream importance placed on language schooling in Australian education policies. Although interestingly, on page 4 of the opening preamble of the Melbourne Declaration on Educational Goals for Young Australians, it openly highlights that Australia values the role of education in building a democratic, equitable and just society which is culturally diverse. This is also followed by specificity in regards to communication across cultures, especially in Asia, on page 9. Therefore, multiculturalism and multilingualism is significantly evident, yet it does not seem to be followed through in our policy or educational systems, which negatively impacts Australian students democratically, ethically, and of their current and future citizenship. According to Liticote and Scarino, Australian language education is in crisis. Language education is important as it will positively broaden the perspective and appreciation the next generation has of global society, therefore consequently shaping a well-rounded global citizen. Currently, the educational policy restricts this opportunity and access due to limited allocation to this study area. Language education is democratically important, as it provides greater understanding and cultural equality amongst students. It enhances future career opportunities and improves communicative understanding between cultures, whilst also ethically promoting cognitive adaptability in developing new skills. This topic area has a lot of supportive literature. Rodaus advocates that language other than English learning should be prioritised in mainstream education throughout all years of schooling, and that Asian languages should be prioritised due to Australia's geographic location and global connections to Asia. Wilkes-Smith argues that the mindset of teachers is monolingual, which needs to be addressed from the pre-service level of teacher education in order to support the increasing diversity of language in their classrooms, to ultimately become normalised within schools. While Scarino highlights that the education system needs to recognise the mediating role of languages and cultures in positively influencing the outlook of students as a whole. Alternatively, Byrne's view of language education suggests that at a young age it could cause bewildering cross-purposes and problematic social hierarchies, as well as also claiming that although the current monolingual mindset seems to be perceived as linguistically oppressive, it is also arguably the most effective way of assuring language survival and equal contribution to societal life. The primary goal of my proposal is to alter the current education policy in Australian government schools to promote a more linguistically diverse and opportunistic education system, which will eventually become of mainstream importance throughout all levels of the public school education system. I would begin advocating for this prospect by considering the key stakeholders in the education system, primarily the parents, through questionnaires regarding perspectives of the current policy standards for their child's education, in comparison to the changing demographics of Australian society and of the proven benefits of multilinguistic knowledge. The evidence from this questionnaire would be vital in obtaining support for policy change and will raise discussion, like a ripple effect, through all stakeholders within the education system of the importance of language other than English education to evidently put forth a voice to the government bodies of education. Drawing on ideas from the text of Wilkes Smith in 2017, there are many strategies teachers of both monolingual or multilingual background which they can personally incorporate to advocate and create normality of diversity within their classroom. As a future teacher, I would incorporate the celebration of specific international days through the use of incursions, in particular for cultures which are in my classroom. I would also advocate for the use of languages within my class to be inclusive to everyone by the use of familiar phrases, words, and greetings, whilst also including multilinguistic choices for my students, such as books, reading, songs, signs, and text within the classroom in order to be an advocate for the normality of cross cultures and languages. My proposal advocates for democracy by building trust within the school and community, which is initially enhanced through engaging with the perspectives of stakeholders before simply challenging for immediate change in policy. Secondly, the strategy I suggest of allowing various choices within the classroom, such as through multilingual books, promotes power to the student in their education. This diverse method is positive in advocating for the acceptance and engagement of diversity within the classroom, which greatly contributes to the formation of an equitable future society. Holistically, this intentional teaching of diverse lingual practices and engagement with cultures within the classroom would broadly contribute to creating a culturally aware, ethical, and social global citizen. This method is also ethically fair as it does not have teacher prerequisites to advocate linguistic diversity. Therefore, it is an inclusive and equitable strategy I promote for teachers. Drawing to parallel ideas of Hugh, this proposal advocates for socially equitable education, especially to students who do not speak English at home. It provides students with a new opportunity to communicate and diversifies learning strategies, which ultimately will rebuild a new generation of linguistically adaptable and intellectual citizens. Thank you for listening, and I hope this provided you with a greater perspective of the importance of language other than English education in Australian government schools, and also raised awareness as to where it is lacking in current policy. Whilst I hope this enlightened you with my own nuanced ideas as to how we can redirect the current discourse of monolingual dominant schooling. Thank you.